Welcome back to the Firefighters Podcast. Today I'm Richard Moon and beside me Pete Wakefield, and today we are diving head deep into the world of addiction, drug abuse and recovery. Our guest this afternoon is a guy that's done it all. He's fought at the highest of levels and he's battled drug abuse for around 10 years but now been recovered even longer. We really appreciate this guy sharing his story with us today. Please welcome Matthew Jagger. Matt, how are you today?
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I am fantabulous. How are you?
Yeah, we're good, thanks. Okay, so Matt, first of all, you're a Thai boxer. I've got a martial arts background.
So yeah, I had quite a tough upbringing in terms of a counsellor state. I was always fighting, always in trouble. Your typical no GCSEs kind of rebel. Came out into the world, managed to get myself a trade. I just thought I need to channel this want for a little bit of, a little bit of violence. I guess I was naturally violent.
So how old was you when you first started your physical training?
The first time I was knocked out at a Thai boxing club,
really,
was when I was 17. Yeah,
wow.
And I knew that it was serious. I thought, this is it. This is, I understood hierarchies of competence.
Yeah,
because I'd done a plastering apprenticeship, so I accepted that, and it was the receiving a KO that just I thought, this is it. This is the trump card for life. This is no method. And on my way home crying because I was an emotional wreck because of that.
Yeah,
I'd never been hit properly.
No.
So it was an overwhelming kind of. Well, I was just instantly hooked. And I had to become competent in it, and I had to be able to.
I suppose in a weird way, did it kind of sort of put you in your place? Because you said you had a tough upbringing, but there's a very different set of circumstances from when you're fighting on the street and you're just sort of messing about, and when you step in to an environment such as that, when these people have been training for years and years and years, and they may or may not have a similar background to you, but they're a competent martial artist, and it really puts you in your place.
100%. I could see the calm. The guy that knocked me out ended up becoming my sparring partner.
Yeah,
but it was that cool, calm, collected. It was like a chess game to him, and it just happened so easily. And I realised, for all the fights I'd had at school and in the street, I could not fight. I just couldn't fight.
Totally different skill set, isn't it? Street fighting, someone who can actually fight.
Yeah. It's not just a random violent outbreak like you see in so many places. I love what you said there about a chess game. It's exactly that. It's almost scary, the calm and collected way that a true professional martial artist goes about their craft. It's beautiful 100%. To see, but it's deadly. Do you know what I mean? So you got hooked when you were 17, and what was the first love? It was.
I guess I was humbled that could be achieved, because I mean the guy that did it, he was a middleweight fighter, so he's 74 kilograms. Do you know what I mean? This guy is every bouncer's nightmare, because he didn't look competent in anything. I just thought I need to get there.
Yeah.
And it was that, how quickly can I do this? And there was no quick route. There was no, it was all onto me. Yeah, you go training and you get taught how to do these things, but so about 90% is on me.
So that's interesting. So from when you first started training, how long was it before you had your first competitive bout?
So it was just a little under 12 months the first time I stepped foot in the ring, and it was a complete and utter mess. I did some kind of whirlwind kick that I'd never done before. I went over the ropes, out. It was a shocker. It was absolutely.
You went over the ropes.
I missed the opponent.
Mate.
Went in between the opponent and the ref, and landed on the ref table, literally.
Oh jeez.
So did you? I remember what it's like for myself and my students I teach, their first fight. There's two types. Sometimes you want everyone to come and watch, and sometimes you're really nervous about inviting anyone coming down to watch, just in case you lose. Your first fight, was there many people there that you knew watching, or was it just?
Yeah, funnily enough, the better I got, the less people came, which was the irony because of my first fight.
Brilliant.
So yeah, it was going to be this big thing. I've come out. There was a little bit of smoke and some lights,
I love that. It's like your massive debut, and immediately you think, "Oh, I've arrived. This is going to be the big moment." God, I can imagine just seeing you going over the ropes.
So what sort of?
I properly went over as well. No arms out, straight over, bosh into the thing.
So you've had that first fight. You started your fight career. How far did you get with it? What sort of level did you get to in your fight career?
So I have fought abroad, but in terms of skill level, I was a domestic level fighter. I'm 5'11", and I could weight cut down to welterweight. So I'd hover around that. So I had a bit of an advantage. I could lose that weight, so it did. I'm not taking away from my achievements, but it did make it slightly easier because I'm tall for a welterweight.
So for people listening who may not understand what welterweight is, what welterweight in kilos?
So I'd weigh in at between 68.5 and 69 kilos at 5'11".
So about 11 stone. At 5'11", you must have had a massive reach advantage on certain opponents.
It did make it easier, because that's the thing about the fight game, and anybody that has been in boxing or anything like that, you can get small advantages, because the better you get, as you go along, each fight you'll get a good one, you'll get a bad one. Whether you're winning or losing, you have a feeling inside. Even if you win the fight, if the judges score it in your favour, you can feel that person. It's yourself opposed to another human being, and it becomes a game.
Yeah, I love that about it. The more I'm learning as I listen to Rich and yourselves, that primitive side of man-to-man or person-to-person combat is such a beautiful thing to watch. It's like a dance when you see two people that have spent so long, the preparations that go into some of your fight prep to build up to that one moment, and everything can change in a heartbeat.
100%. It's it only takes one shot, and especially in Thai boxing, you're that conditioned.
Yeah,
you just got a blank look on your face, and if you literally raise an eyebrow, if someone catches you with a liver shot or something like that, a raised eyebrow, your opponent will see that, and they won't go for it straight away. They'll just pick away at it. They'll go to the opposing side, and they'll open you up. And it's kind of, once you start to make mistakes, it spirals down slowly, and it's kind of, this is it. And the only way you can pull it back is dig your heels in, go into the deepest, darkest depths of your stomach, and just power it back, and hopefully you land a shot. Half of the knockouts I ever landed, I don't remember the shot I landed. They knocked them out.
So, Matt, at your peak then, how often was you fighting? Because I believe in Thai boxing, it's like a fight season, isn't there? It's not just...
Yeah, I was naughty in the club that I trained at that gave me the most, that did the most for me, and I won't mention any names because of what we're going to go on to, Dan, in the conversation. But
yeah,
I skipped gyms. I like the hierarchy of the competence, and you work your way up slowly. But it got to a point where I don't know. I guess it's in my personality, and I'd go and train at other gyms, and then go and fight.
You were hungry for more, you have
all
that,
the time.
And I'm the same. I have that naturally addictive personality, and it's knowing that whilst it can be really damaging to yourself if you're not funneling it in the right place, when you were living in that world, as you first started out with your physical disciplines in martial arts, it can be enormously beneficial when you've got that real dogged drive to develop and better yourself every single day. It will force you into going into those other gyms, tapping into all of these extra opportunities to better yourself, because that's ultimately what you want. When you say you got bitten by that bug and you wanted to get better, wanted to get better, it led you into seeking out more opportunities.
Of course. And Thai boxing, you can be pro, but you can be in a show that's just put up by, there's so many organisations, there's so many champions, it's so fragmented as a sport in the UK. You could turn up to another gym, train for 4 weeks, they go, you're competent, someone's dropped out. A lot of Thai boxers drop out of fights.
Really?
So there's always an opportunity. Oh God, it happens so much.
Yeah, that's a disaster as well. I mean, I've done a lot of promoting as well. I mean, you'll know just like me how many people drop out minutes before the fight. Never mind.
Seriously?
Yeah, if you get them dropping out weeks before the fight, that's
they can't
bad
make
enough.
weight, or they're scared, or...
Yeah, let's be honest, they bottle it most of the time.
Really?
Yeah, it happens.
I think that's. I mean, I've had the jitters myself. I've been in the change rooms and thought, what excuse can I come out with it? Just because I didn't feel right.
Oh Jesus, it's petrifying. At the end of the day, you're going to be put in there with somebody that's going to bloody hurt you. They're not just trying to beat you. This isn't football. It's not rugby. They're not just trying to win more points than you. Their way of winning is by hurting you.
It is. It's not a tickling competition.
No.
And people, so like my students will ask me, "Oh, Matt, what's it like fighting?" First, it hurts. What's it like winning? It hurts a bit less. What's it like losing?
Nobody gets out alive. Do you know what I mean? There's always at some point.
It's so painful.
I think with any type of martial art or combat sport, it's very enjoyable. We enjoy the training, we enjoy the fight. No one likes getting hit in the face, do they? But I think the biggest buzz, if you're a competitor, it's that walkout. It's that walkout, and then when you get the result, your hands raised in front of the crowd. So, talk to me a little bit about that. How did you used to feel when you used to walk out, and ultimately when you got your hand raised?
So I'm quite a strong-minded, strong, or I was strong physically, but emotionally vulnerable. So I'd have to put on an act when I was coming out, because I was so scared. Like I struggled. I always tried to make sure that I didn't do the way crew because I'd shake so much.
Really?
Just the adrenaline in me. I couldn't do the way crew properly because of the adrenaline.
But even adrenaline's a really, really useful energy. You know, I speak to people when they go and do public speaking, and the difference between being anxious, being nervous, and being excited are very very, very similar. So you can kind of, you know, when you should be a little bit nervous, especially when you're going into a fight. I mean, that excitement and that energy, as long as it doesn't peak too soon, because you can get some people that peak in the changing rooms and they're that nervous and that shaky, and then their adrenaline drops through the floor.
Adrenaline with fighting as well. I remember the biggest thing, it's that adrenaline dump, isn't it, in round one, Matthew? Round one, that adrenaline 100%. Dump.
100%. There's nothing like it on the face of the earth. And I struggle to... the only way I can describe it is sort of going third person and looking down on yourself mentally. So that's how you... And I just all those sort of... I mean, especially with Thai boxing, you'll block a kick or you'll land a kick on their shin and it doesn't hurt. It will. It will after. It will.
I've seen that.
Half melon on your shin later on.
How many times have you seen that? You'll watch the 3-round fight or whatever it may be, and there's some big kicks gone in. And they're not hobbling, they're not limping. Yeah. But as soon as the fight's over, that adrenaline's gone. They need crutches to walk out the ring.
Well, we have it with the fire service when people will have a car crash or they'll come off their motorbike at high speed. And they'll be able to walk around for 5 or 10 minutes because they're running on adrenaline. And we've seen it, you know, athletes and football players who run around on a broken leg until that runs out, and then they go, "This drop to the floor," and they go, "Gee, I just can't walk." Do you know what I mean? All of that extra energy just leaves them.
So it's true. That's the same when you come out of the ring. It's like that. But I used to get a little bit of that before that. When that bell went round one, I was always an easy fighter to hit, so it was on like Donkey Kong. There was no dancing around. I was kind of static initially, always. And then I relaxed. But coming out, I appreciate it for what it is now. I'm older, but at the time, it was an act. I was acting as I came out.
Masking that fear.
Yeah, of course.
Don't flinch. Just keep walking. Just keep going straight. You know what I mean? Don't show any weakness. You know, don't show that it's affected you. And then when you get in the changing room, so when you're out of sight, Jesus.
Now, Matthew, I envy anyone that's fought. I know what it's like. I've seen a lot of students do it as well, and it's a hard game. You're training before your preparation, then you fight, and especially if you're in like a fight season, so to speak. Not so many weeks after, you could be fighting again, and it is a hard game. But something I'm really interested to talk to you about today is you got to a certain level, and then something happened, something changed. You almost crashed, and you turned to substance abuse. This is something I really want to talk to you about today, because this is a story I believe is going to help many. So talk to me about that. How have you gone from being a fit, physical athlete at the top of your game to all of a sudden you've took the wrong path?
So I'd realised quite quickly just before I retired, which was a very unceremonious retirement. It wasn't really official. No one really cared. It's a huge sport, really. So I was but it was only my perceived ideal of myself. You know, there
I think
isn't
a lot
a word
of people
in the
think
alphabet.
that. Yeah, it's huge in your life, but the world still goes on. The players just change. Do you know what I mean? It's the same in any big business.
It's a conveyor belt.
Yeah, you do 30 years at a business. You move in, someone else moves in. You know, we just change places, don't we?
You know, it's run off of talent, and if that starts to fade, you know it's next. There's always someone coming up behind you.
Absolutely.
So, you know, I didn't have the personal aspects and the want and the need to teach at that time. I was quite narcissistic. I was quite self-centered. I was harsh. I was just a little bit lost. but I did find that this, not even Z-list celebrity, but I had a group of people around me that, I mean, they were only coattailing off of me. It would have been for them sort of, Matt's a champion type boxer. There we go. We'll just go out with, we'll all be around him. And I sort of fell into that. And
I've seen that so much. I mean, you'll have a fight at your gym. You could be just a local lad, maybe fighting at a very low amateur level. But your group of friends think you are a superstar because you're the one that's getting in that cage or that ring. Even when you go out totally unrelated, you're going out on the town, on the piss or whatever, you're the guy that they all say is the fighter or is whatever, and you get put up on this platform, whether it's an amateur level or professional level, to your circle, you do get a huge buzz, don't you? I mean, they do put you on that platform.
Absolutely, and I've pondered over the years as to the motivations. I can't. They have their, and half the time people don't mean to do these things. These aren't, they haven't mulled over it and they've gone out to purposely take advantage of anybody. It's just human nature. Yeah. But it's like not one of them ever asked to see my belts, or not one of them ever asked to see. I must have had something about me. So a couple of people had seen me fight, and I was generally known as a Thai boxer, but they actually built me up into something that I wasn't. Yeah. Which was sort of, I guess it's the madness of crowds. We all did it. We made me I guess, I don't know, whatever, Ricky Hatton of our little group, I guess.
Yeah. Well, like you just said about human nature, I completely agree with you there, because as animals, human animals as we are, we're designed to live in groups. We like living in groups. It keeps us safe. But even within that group, it's very important to all of us, whether we believe it or not, that we identify who is the alpha male here, who's the strong, who's the fighter, who's the leader, and who's the person that we want to support and lift up onto that pedestal to protect the entire group. And I imagine, as Rich has just said and you've just said yourself, fighters that still have a close group of friends will find themselves in that position, and the group will define themselves by that individual and by their accomplishments, whether or not they've been in seeing you fight or whether or not they have a personal connection to you. You are their champion.
Of course, yeah, and it's all relative, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Compared to where they are in what they've done and their achievements, they may see mine as, right up there on an ivory tower. So it's all relative, isn't it?
So what happened then when it went? What happened next?
Well, that's kind of how it led. There's always been an underlying emptiness and unhappiness in me that the Thai boxing fulfilled it initially.
Yeah.
And then as I've come of age as a Thai boxer, and that's my identity, and quite a strong character, quite regimed, and we were in a time where a lot of lads started to get a little bit lost in life. They didn't get trades, they didn't do these things, and I was one of those that did. So I had all this structure, and that identified me. And when I finished Thai boxing, I started to, I'd never really had a proper girlfriend. I'd never drank lager since I was, 15, and I just fell for it. I fell for the whole thing. It was so intoxicating. Yeah. Friday night, bang, I was out with the boys. I had a decent amount of money because I was a plasterer, and we partied, and we partied hard. And it was, I sort of, everybody's got red lines that they won't cross.
Yeah.
Morally, what do we find morally abhorrent? What would we not do? And those red lines are set in stone. You won't cross it.
Yeah.
Anybody that crosses a red line, they don't just instantly jump over it and they're into that area that they would have never gone into. It's just slow increments. It's half a toe across that red line. Then you pull it back. I'm not never doing that again.
Yeah. So is it fair to say when you were Thai boxing, you had that structure, you didn't really drink? I'm guessing you ate well. You mentioned you didn't really have too much of an interest in girls because I'm guessing you was training all the time. But now you find yourself out. You're out on a Friday night. You're getting pissed. You meet loads of girls. You're generally having a good time. You're having that party. Is it fair to say you've gone from one extreme and now you're at the other end of it? You are going out. You're partying, and I'm guessing you've took that structure, if you like, into the party atmosphere. So instead of having just one or two drinks, you're going to take it to the extreme. The girls, you're going to take it to the extreme. Yeah. You're just going to go. You're going to put all that energy you did in Thai boxing. You're now putting all that energy into something else, which in your case is maybe the party.
Oh God, yeah, it was. It really was. And I look back on it, and I can see how I was how can someone go from never drinking alcohol to to still being awake at 7 a.m. Scratching around for more alcohol. You know, when you've only been drinking for 6 weeks.
Yeah. That's because the avenue may have changed, but the person who is operating in that avenue is still the same. So whatever you were choosing to do, you were going to do it 100%. Now, that's when people go, oh, but how could you go from doing nothing to so much of something? Because that's your being. You're a driven, obsessive, passionate, addictive, same as myself, personality. And if you choose something, I'm going for it. You know, I'm going all the way in both feet. You know, once you've dipped the toe once or twice, like you spoke about the line analogy, once you've dipped it once or twice, then you're in. Yeah, and you're really in. There's no messing about. There's no halfway house here. I'm in.
I remember I can relate to that with society as well, because I used to have a group of friends we used to train with a lot, mixed martial arts and grappling, and we used to spend 4 or 5 days together. We used to train really, really hard, and it all of a sudden stopped. But that same group of friends, we found ourselves at the pub 3, 4, 5 times a week, and we used to try and outdrink each other. That competitive edge we used to have on the mats, we're now doing it in the pubs. And it turned into a very slippery slope that I'm glad I'm out of that sort of side of things now. But I had a massive problem with alcohol at the time, so I can see it's so easy to get into that rut, isn't it?
It is, and what it actually does, what it did to me, and I think it happens to a lot of people who get caught up in substance abuse, whether that be alcohol or Class A drugs. As people start to fall away from that group because they get on with their life, your addiction then, because you are addicted. Sometimes an addict's the last person to find out they're an addict.
Yeah, that's so true.
And you'll then, it replaces those friendships, those networks, those, you know, because people just carry on with their lives, and those old behaviours, you know, that you'll always know someone, or most people will know someone who just never stopped.
Yeah,
I mean,
they just didn't know where the line was. They just kept going and going and going.
Just kept going and going and going, and it ends up becoming your confidant, your soft pillow, your reason for, you know, if you're elated at something, you'll go and drink or take drugs, or if you're miserable, it's got you at the top and the bottom end of the scale.
It's everything. You north, south, east, west. No matter the moment.
If you feel sad, you drink to make yourself feel better. If you're happy, you drink to celebrate. If something, it's always that go-to, isn't it? I mean, going back to something you just said then, when did you realise you was an addict? You was addicted to that substance, that alcohol?
So the drinking was a doorway into cocaine use, and so were the girls. So the alcohol and the girls brought me into a different, and then along came the cocaine, and that for me was powdered competition. Mm-hmm. It gave me the same buzz as being in the ring. Now that then took me from quite a normally functioning person into someone that I would never recognise as me.
So how did that change you? So when you started on your cocaine journey, if you like, how did that change you?
It changed me into someone that became less of a human being the longer the binges went on for. And what I mean by that is my faculties got stripped from me, my ability to function. So where I'd be quite a tidy person, that stopped, because I was just being stripped of those core tenets that make up a person. So looking after yourself properly, being able to function normally. You know, I couldn't talk on the phone much just because I was so low and down if I wasn't high, and then if I was high, I just, everybody around me was being alienated by my behaviour.
Who else did you have in your world? Who else was in your world at this time? Did you have a partner or a...
Yeah. I'd met my ex-wife, who, you know, she's my ex-wife now, but she was my girlfriend at the time, and she went along this journey. And this is something that happens quite a lot with functioning addicts, quite highly functioning addicts that can keep a job, that can keep a base level of function going. Purely, I've got to addicts, and most of the time it's purely just for keeping up with the Joneses. It's not, they're struggling, and they are literally, the only thing they can do is turn up to work.
Yeah.
Just about stay away from being sacked, but keep bringing that money in.
There is a lot of them as well. And I'm not saying them like it's a bad thing, but as I've gone through an addiction journey of my own, there's a lot of people who can't fully get traction on the beginning of their journey, and they're still existing in their reality, and with the knowledge of the group that we used to go to, that they are a functioning addict and they're not quite managing to make those transitions.
So also here as well for people listening, I mean, we're not here to promote drugs. Obviously, we're going to talk about your recovery, but what is that draw to take cocaine? What does it make you feel like?
So, like, I tried it just because everybody else was, and it just seemed, I mean, at the time, FHM magazine was around and all this. I was getting on the sunbeds. I had a studded earring. I was impossibly well positioned to take advantage of the fruits of life. So
absolutely.
I had a great body. I put weight on, so flipping out. I had more packs than you can count. I had so many muscles on my.
Absolutely.
I filled out.
Yeah.
And I was loving it. And the parties went on all night, and the cocaine was there.
Goddamn invincible.
Even more so. Godlike powers of just bending the universe to my will.
Plus, it's like when you say godlike powers, you were operating around mere mortals as well, because you were one of those that. We say this because that's the feeling you get. I had a similar one when I was enormous, muscular, and all this sort of stuff, because you're bigger than everybody, you're stronger than everybody, but the difference for you as well is you were, we'll call it a trained weapon. You were somebody, and you don't meet many martial artists in life, and I'm sure you and Rich can probably pick them out in a group of people easier than I can. You'd gone into this other world, you'd put on all this muscle, you still had all of that martial arts background, and you were operating like you were invincible.
Yeah, 100%. And I managed to function like that for a time. We me and my ex-wife, we got married. We bought a house. I'd set up a small business, which, on the face of it, was a motivation to earn money and buy things, but it wasn't. It was so that I could hide the volume of money that I was spending per week on drugs.
Wow, really?
So that's it.
100%.
That's another interesting subject. So we spoke about the alcohol. We're now on the cocaine and how it's took its effect. At the height of your cocaine abuse, how much shit were you putting up your nose? What was it doing to you financially? Because all these things have a massive effect on yourself and your family, don't they?
Well, I would imagine most weeks I brought through the household doors £400, but I was earning £1,400 a week.
Wow!
So it was £1,000
£1,000 a week
up your nose. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Either up the nose or through some sort of behaviour.
And when you talk about this as well, we can't forget this. This would have started off just someone wanting to try cocaine, have a line, and before you know it, it has literally took over your life.
100%. It had not fully brought me to my knees. I was still managing. The usage was going up, and I was not that I knew it at the time. These are all things in recovery that the deep questions I've had to ask myself and come up with these answers. And there was no motivation for me to start a business and earn lots of money other than to buy more drugs.
Yeah, which is interesting.
And I can't hide from that.
Look, a lot of young lads now on the town. I mean, cocaine's massive. It's everywhere, isn't it? I mean, what would you say to somebody who's the thinking of having the first little dabble? We know it leads on to a hell of a lot more. What would you say to them?
I would say that there's a lot of dangerous things in life, but one of the most dangerous things is yourself. And cocaine will remove every single core aspect of any kind of stability and ability to say no and ability to function. And it won't do it overnight. It will not. It will convince you. Addiction will convince you that you're okay, that you're not like him. There's always someone worse than you. There's someone down the road who takes more than you.
Yeah. And you're stronger than them.
Away.
You're stronger than them, so you can last it. This is the test, and it's only the weak people that it really gets, and that's absolute BS.
Of course,
like you say, it can happen to anybody.
Those conversations, you only hear those conversations when someone's actually taking drugs or have taken drugs or have blown all their money on drugs. I could quit whenever I want. Well, how come you've got no money?
Yeah,
and that's addiction already taking a grip.
Yeah.
And what happens? What happens? You're constantly chasing that fix, but what happens when you can't get that from cocaine no more?
So, cocaine stopped. I mean, it was a tool to function. It was a vicious circle of having to, because you're so ill. When you're taking that much, if you stop, you are physically destroyed.
Yeah.
And without it, you can't function. And I had a business. I had a business partner. I had a ridiculously high mortgage. I had a Range Rover Sport outside that I couldn't afford.
Wow.
Well, I could if I'd stopped taking drugs, but I had to have these drugs, and if I'd have gone, right, I'm going to quit.
Yeah.
Well, I'm to be honest, at the time, I didn't think quitting was an option. I didn't think it was that bad.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was that bad. I was hanging around with business people within construction, and they were all taking it. And I always
to you, it was like a performance enhancer. Do you know what I mean? I'm able to operate on this level. Yeah. I'm able to do all of this stuff because I'm goddamn invincible, and I'll just stick this up my nose. Yeah. It's the same as a coffee. It's the same as a Lucozade. When you're operating at that level, you think this is just another one of those things. Everybody does it. It's socially acceptable. You know, I know a number of business owners who have the odd lock-in where they'll have a lock-in at somebody's business and they all get together on a Friday night and they're talking about strategy and everything else. But there's a lot of substances knocking about and it's just socially accepted for them. And it's scary. It's scary. I worry for a number of them who are at different stages in their journey. I don't go to these meetings or anything like that, but it's a life that I was once a part of. And I know it still goes on. It's prolific in our society now.
Well, if anybody wants to kid themselves about, they're addiction proof, you can get addicted to putting pound coins in a plastic machine where you lose your money every time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So something that actually gives you a chemical high.
Yep.
You're on the back foot straight away. You are on the back foot.
And we're all biochemically disposed to it. We all react from that same chemical. You know, from the endorphins, the serotonin, the oxytocin, the dopamine. We all have these in us. So when you find that thing that triggers you, and you go, oh yeah, but I'm not into drugs. That's fine. It might be pound coins in the machine. It might be, let's say, gambling. It might be social media. It might be performance enhancing drugs, like it was for me. It could be so many things. There will be one there. Don't kid yourself, as you rightfully say, that you're immune from it. You know, it's not a threat, but just be on the lookout because everybody can do this. It doesn't just because somebody struggled with an addiction doesn't mean they're weaker than you. Doesn't mean that you'll be okay and they were just a weak person because they got bitten by the bug. Anybody can get bitten.
It's an equal opportunity thing. It's as equal opportunity thing as you're ever going to find. It will get young, old. It will get.
It's not racist. It doesn't care. It will take anybody, the big, the small, the fat, the thin. It will take all of you.
Everyone's welcome. All are welcome. Addiction offers help for everybody if you want misery in your life.
It's the party that never stops.
And how does, again, it doesn't matter what you're addicted to. Addiction's it's a very dangerous thing, but how does addiction affect those people around you? So not necessarily the circle that's also addicted with you and sharing that experience, that your loved ones who are seeing you going through this and they may be telling you need to cut down on this or stop this, but you're thinking, no, I'm all right. I'm going to continue to operate on this level. How does it affect your family, your children, your friends, etc.?
So there's, from my own experience and being divorced, there's two kinds of people when it comes to those that are around addicts. There's enablers and there's lovers. And what I mean by that is enablers will tell you off, but you can shut them down by saying, yeah, I'll stop, or yeah, I'll cut down, or yeah, of course, yeah, I'll do this, yeah, I'll do that, and you never have to do it. They're just angry with you for a couple of days, and those come under enablers. Oh, he's at the pub again, or he's doing this again, and they go this high drama, you get locked out. That is enabling. That's not dealing with the issue. Mm-hmm. The only way out is love and understanding, and you're only going to start to tell the truth and admit to yourself that things have gone wrong and that you're no longer in control of yourself if you're in a safe environment, because addiction makes you extremely vulnerable. As hard and as horrible a person as it makes you, you're never more vulnerable than when you're an addict.
Yeah.
And without love and a network around you, you can't broach the subject of it properly, and you can't break. You've got to break before you can fix.
So what do you mean when it makes you vulnerable? Does that mean you're just unable to make those right decisions and how it's affecting people, or?
So it makes it, because if you admit all the wrongs and that that you've been hiding these things, and it makes you vulnerable, because if there's every chance that you'll be excommunicated from everything you've got.
That's the bit just right there. I was waiting for you to say it because you're so right. You think the world that you've currently created, you can exist in it. You might not be existing very healthily, but you are existing within it. These people that are around me, they may be happy or unhappy, but they're tolerating me. My wife, my husband, my family, my children, my business partners, whatever, they're currently tolerating me in this world. If I change, if I admit this whole thing is a facade, if I admit that all of this is built on sand and the things that I'm struggling with, will they shun me? Will they walk away from me? Will I be alone in this turmoil that I find myself in?
It's also it's difficult for addicts of stimulants, because sometimes then the addiction can increase slightly if they then start to tell the truth.
Yeah, absolutely.
As well.
So that's interesting as well, because when we spoke on the phone, you said you had drug addiction for 10 years. I mean, 10 years is a long time. I imagine during that 10 years, it was the norm for you, or you thought it was the norm. But at the height of your addiction, how bad was it?
So when I stopped taking powder cocaine was when I lost it. The business failed. I went bankrupt. Massive issues at home, and I got bin bagged, and that whole thing, the whole world around me fell apart. And that's when I then first went into rehabilitation programs.
Is that because you were forced into it though?
Yeah, of course. You
couldn't sustain your life anymore. Life had said no. Life had tapped you out. Life had said, no, your game's over now. The party's carrying on, but you're not invited anymore.
Very much so. At that time, I couldn't really fathom giving up, and I had nothing anymore. I'd been bin bagged. I had no one to move in with because I had nothing and nobody.
Yeah.
My wife really had enough.
When you say bin bagged, you mean you got thrown out?
I got thrown out. Yeah. It's just that's just how it was. I wasn't capable of functioning well enough to even hold a conversation and fight my own corner on that. And I didn't really love my wife anymore. I didn't love myself.
So was that a little bit of a realization for you then, or did you think, no, fuck it, I'm gonna go get myself smashed?
Well, in my case, I double dipped.
Dipped.
I double dipped. It got worse. This isn't the worst bit. I'd engaged in services, and I'd gone and sought help.
Yeah.
But looking back, I had no intention of giving up forever, which is a big mistake.
Yeah.
But I had an intention of giving up just enough to get a life.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting a flat. Everything was going great. I went back into building work. I was, rebuilding some form of a life, and then I bumped into my new best friend at that time, a gent that I'd met on a building site, and we made. He was an ex-drug addict, and we had lots to talk about. We had loads in common. He was an ex-gangster. He was just the funniest guy you've ever met. Just an absolute diamond. And he the way he spoke, he's from Manchester, like, yeah, you're right, Jags. Because he'd smoked crack for that long. He's like, yeah, I'm going to pick this up, yeah. It's the way he spoke, and he was just a big character on site.
But he was a recovered addict as well, was he?
He was a recovered addict. We spent tons of time together. We people used to call us husband and wife. We go out shopping together, and just the best of mates.
Yeah.
And we made one mistake one day, which was we went for 1 pint. We went for a pint.
So had you gone teetotal with your drinking as well then?
Yeah. Teetotal had 12 months out of the game, as John was saying. Oh, he's been out of the game. So I was out of the game, but we decided to go for a drink. And I'll be honest with you, we probably convinced ourselves that it was
safe
to celebrate something, and we'd be in control. And
did he drink as well as a recovered addict? Did he have drinking as part of his life, or he wasn't drinking either?
He didn't. He was teetotal.
Wow. Okay.
And we made that one mistake, and then we.
So really, this was the addiction coming through. This was. We say we're going for 1 pint, but probably deep down you knew that this was going to not end well.
Yeah. This is the thing about addiction. The best way I can explain Class A drug addiction is it's a fight with your own mind when your own mind's against you.
Yeah.
So normally your brain will assist you.
Yeah.
I've got to just bang out 10 more press-ups, or I've just got to get this essay done, or I've just got to fix the cat, whatever it is. Try doing that when your brain says no. I really know.
Because your brain wants it doesn't know you're hurting yourself. It just wants the chemical. It says, I know when you put that in my body, it feels great. So just do it one more time for me, because it feels really good.
And it even has the power to bring on lethargy and depression. And it turns into a 2-year-old child that's having a stress out on you. It's having a paddy fit.
Because you won't give it what it wants, So
explain to us then, you're in that pub with your mate, that first pint's just been poured. It goes to your lips. You taste it. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
What happened next?
Well, he then introduced me to the darker side of drug use in crack cocaine that very night.
Wow.
And the problems that my problems then were worsened by orders of magnitude.
Yeah.
It's
things went into overdrive. You changed lanes. You're in the fast lane then.
If I thought I'd hit rock bottom, if I was at rock bottom, the first time I sought help, this was hitting rock bottom, and I started to mine. I became a miner within misery.
And you just kept going through layer and layer of self-hate and shit.
Substrate, just guilt. And then, if anybody ever sees your atypical, say, whatever, if someone's walking down the street, look at that smackhead.
Yeah.
It isn't heroin that does that to people. It's crack that does that.
Really?
You become withered. You look like you're 15, 20 years older than you are.
So how did it affect you?
Gaunt look, it's crack.
So how did it affect you physically? And explain, how did your physical appearance change?
It essentially destroyed me. My body ended up eating my muscle fibers, my joints. I just became kind of like an old man, kind of like someone in the late.
So did this also
70s.
affect your? I'm just trying to get for people listening, just so they can understand. Yeah. So how did it affect like your personal hygiene?
That's not even on the list of priorities.
Really?
I can't remember wearing a different set of clothes for 2 years. I just wore the same clothes.
Wow.
Yeah. I can't remember ever changing. I can't remember changing, and I didn't smell either because I was that dehydrated 24/7. I couldn't sweat.
It's incredible that the body's able to survive like that, isn't it? It's not something to be admired, but it's mad because I absolutely, I've been around a few people like that who say they haven't eaten for days, they haven't drank for days, and everything we've originally learnt, where you're like, your body can't survive a few days without water. When you're constantly putting that chemical, crack cocaine or something else in the body, it's unreal what the body morphs into.
So when you got to this sort of level, if you like, would you still manage to keep a job down then as well?
No, I used what I could, which was building work mixed in with light crime, if you like.
To fund the addiction.
I took what I could when I could.
It's still not cheap. Like I say, at that rate, it's not cheap, but it's so. No. I mean, some cocaine addicts don't look, that bad. They're functional people. When you get into crack, it's very, very visibly, as you just said yourself, when you see the individual walking down the street, or from your own experiences, they take on a very obvious persona, and the coloration of their skin and the way they look. I hate using the word they, but we need to group this together for people to identify.
We are them. We are them. We're all human.
Yeah.
But it does have that generic look. It does. That's part of.
So being able, there must have been certain jobs you couldn't do. There must have been certain building sites and things you couldn't even go to because people would see you and go,
"That's a crackhead.
That's a crackhead. I'm not having that." Are they going to steal something? Are they going to this? Are they going to that?
Yeah, they knew that. They people know. When you're looking back at them, they know.
Yeah.
But if you're 40 quid cheaper than the other pastor, and you want paying at the end of that day, they're just going to call you and they can keep their eye on you for the day, and you're off and away.
Yeah. And again, we talk about enablers. I'm sure they didn't think of themselves as that, but I'm sure these weren't bad people. I don't know who you were working with at that point in time, but they didn't care. If you went away and killed yourself that night, it doesn't matter. I want this job doing today. You're the cheapest. Get it done. Do whatever you want to yourself. You want to go into self-destruct after you finish at 5 o'clock. Do whatever you like.
Yeah,
I imagine as well, Matt. This is you at the absolute rock bottom now, isn't it?
Yeah, we're deep in. We're in the Jurassic level here now. We're right down.
It's gone biblical.
I think the next conversation we have, this is going to be like the magic conversation, if you like. This is a conversation that's going to help so many people. So, how did you go from being rock bottom to where you are now? Where did that road to recovery start? Where was that realization that you needed help?
Because a lot of people continue into the abyss. They hit rock bottom and then they die.
Yeah.
Some people don't make it. And we hope, I mean, I don't imagine necessarily lots of people in that position may or may not listen to this, but there may be people that listen to it that know somebody close to them.
We did have a phone call, Matt, didn't we, last night? Just a little quick chat. And am I right in saying a few of your circle of friends did die from this?
Yeah, that's right. So initially, my I'd never dealt with any. I thought I'd dealt with addiction, but I hadn't. And crack was it's a serious addiction and classed as an illness, and it is. And at the time, I couldn't even seek out help. I was just a vessel for taking drugs, and I had no control over myself. And so to stop that, I tried to kill myself. Yeah. And I tried that twice. And for how miserable that sounds, there is a funny tale within this.
We've got to find that dark humour. We're firefighters at the end of the day, mate. Give us that dark humour. We love it. Come on.
So it was New Year's Eve. I'll set the scene. It was New Year's Eve. I knew there'd be
a very popular date for this sort of thing, unfortunately.
And all the police are going to be busy, and all the ambulances are going to be busy. I knew that, so I thought I've got a good chance of checking out here. So I got on a bridge across a motorway, a particular stretch of motorway.
Yeah.
And it was pitch black. The lights were off. I thought, right, just shuffle along. So I've climbed over the rail. I've shuffled along. I've cried a bit, and then I literally launched myself off. And I thought, this is it.
You did launch.
Yeah, but I not moved far enough along, so I hit the embankment and only dropped it.
And you were just bloody annoyed.
Brilliant. I say brilliant, but that must be
a glance round. You like,
it wasn't. It was obviously not your time to go, Matt.
That's it, mate. That's it. But like I torn the seat of my pants out. I was covered in hedges. I just, stingers.
You were just bloody angry then. You were just really annoyed.
I was sat in the hard shoulder whimpering, and I couldn't even get onto the motorway because there was roadworks and they'd put barriers up.
But I know I'm thinking to myself, was that the universe intervening? But you said you made another attempt, unfortunately.
Yeah. So again, that went wrong. In that I was fine. I just had a serious headache and some kidney pain. Which luckily I'd taken the wrong pills, so the right ones would have killed me. But I was that intoxicated. I just picked up tablets and shoved them down my throat, and I was just ill for a few days. But because at that point I was like, I can't even kill myself in just this misery. So I reached out to my best friend from school.
Okay. So your best friend from school, is this someone that you hadn't talked to for a long time, or was you still in contact?
I'd not seen him in years. I've not seen him in the best part of 12 years. And he said, I'm coming for you now. I'm coming for you. And they sped up the motorway. They did this. It was like a three car sort of, all these people that I'd forgotten that I had ties with from school.
Wow.
They came up from Somerset because I was living in Manchester at the time.
So this is a guy that's not heard from you in 12 years. You've reached out to him, and he's literally jumped in his car, and he's coming to you right now.
Yeah, he listened to the shorthand version of the story, my situation, and he went, "Nah, I'm not having that. I'm coming to getting you." Bang! He was up the motorway.
Wow. Is that person still in your world today?
Yeah, he's family to me. He's my brother. I see.
What's his name? Sorry.
Steve. His name's Steve.
I just think it's important. I obviously don't know Steve, but I just want. It's important for that person to be acknowledged, because in this world today of social media and everything else, and lots of people are struggling, but also some people do things for attention and things like that. And when somebody is in a true tragedy, it's incredible that people like Steve, and everyone probably has a Steve inside them, can make a difference to somebody. So Steve came up the motorway to rescue. And what happened next?
The motorway. He took me in the car. And I was like, I've still got crack on me. He went, just go ahead and smoke that in the back of the car. I'm not interested. We start again tomorrow.
Wow.
And I woke up and I was in the south of England. I was around people I'd been to school with, and just lots of love around me. And I was cut off I was out in the country. I was cut off from the city. I was cut off from that life. I had no access to anything. And
so was you living with Steve then at the time? Did Steve take you in, or?
So Steve put me in his commercial unit he made me a little sort of. My nickname at school was Notches because I was quite successful with the girls, and I'm not being big-headed, but he built this thing called Notches Towers, which was in the apex of the commercial unit.
Wow.
That was where I did the majority of my recovery up there in those eaves, and I had the space to cry when I needed to cry, and I got up every morning.
Is it fair to say that Steve? It was Steve who ultimately changed your life.
100%.
Wow.
I did, and he did very little for me. I don't mean that's the best thing he could have done.
Yeah.
He wasn't there to nurse me or counsel me or anything like that. No. He just gave me somewhere safe, secure, and kind of left me to it.
Yeah.
Because he was around.
Right. Steve played a huge role, but you saved your life, because even there will be lots of people who have had somebody reach out to them and try to support them, but like you just said there, you were removed from the city, you were removed from your areas, and you still had this demon living inside of you, and you could have, and I'm sure many people do, get aggressive, violent in those situations and push away from the person that's trying to help them because they want to get back to their world, to their fix, to their familiarity, their habits.
Well, they say I'm from Shepshed, and that's a town in Leicestershire. You can take the lad out of Shepshed because it's the same, isn't it? It's the same with the. You can take yourself out of that environment, but that's always that hunger inside you.
Anywhere you go in life, there you are. Do you know what I mean? Some people that go on holiday and they try to escape something or something like that, you taking yourself with you. So wherever you go, there you are. So you'd been taken to this safer place. So this Steve had helped you, and you'd helped yourself. Remove yourself from the environment you were in, and perhaps some of the habits and the people who are around you. And then the second journey began.
Recovery.
Yes, recovery. The hardest fight I've ever fought, and continue to fight.
That's a very good point. Every day.
Talk to me. What's the first 24, 48 hours like then? So you've been a crack addict. What's the first 24, 48 hours like clean?
First 24, 48, they're the easiest. That's bliss, mate. That's got because you're mainly asleep.
Okay.
How do you deal with that? What do they? Because it's the real chemical thing. It's not just mindset. It's not just willpower. You have to chemically do something to get away from that.
Well, it's not. I mean, on the scale of things that give you physical symptoms when you come off it, the symptoms you get from crack cocaine are psychologically driven. So you'll get shakes and you'll get this and you get that, but it's not like heroin or alcohol, because they're the only two true physically. The alcohol and heroin are the only two true physical addictions that we've got. So opiates and alcohol.
Oh,
so
really?
You can actually die. Yeah, if you go cold turkey, you can die.
I didn't know.
Whereas
that. That's what I mean. I knew there were certain drugs that you had to either be phased off or transitioned onto another drug, but that's like I said, that's heroin and alcohol that causes the real physical damage.
Real physical. Your body cries out for it, and you have all kinds of trouble.
Wow. Okay.
But with crack, it's I'd say 70% psychological and the rest physical. But the physical goes away pretty quick, and it's mainly the pain you're feeling is because you haven't eaten properly. You haven't, because you're not taking that substance in daily.
Yeah.
You start to feel the damage that you've done to yourself.
Yeah.
But good, eating decent meals. Setting that
I was going to say, what was it? Because I love my food. What was it like after that 48 hours? Because you couldn't just jump straight back into a Sunday dinner. I imagine you probably wanted to, but what was the transition that side? I mean, it might seem a small thing, but food's huge for me. So what was that? What was that like?
So if anybody's keen has got sweet teeth that's listening to this, the struggle is real. I understand it 100% because most people that have been addicted to substances get like a crazy sugar craving.
Oh, really?
And that's pretty much all you want for the first sort of 4 or 5 days of coming out of it. It's not longer. It can go up to 4 weeks, but it's good because you start banging the weight on. It's not good long term, but you're there with sticky toffee pudding, nom nom nom, with chocolate bars.
I'll bet.
Bags of sweets.
Eat and sleep.
Did you ever weigh yourself through this process? I mean, do you know how much weight you actually lost? I mean, just trying to build a picture. So we talked at the beginning, you as this fighter, you as this athlete. How much weight did you lose?
So I was I hovered around 7 stone as a 5'11" man. Seven stone.
7 stone, crikey.
I imagine that's almost skin and bones.
Yeah, so I had medium-sized boxers, and I had to tie a knot in them.
Yeah.
So a male medium, I had to tie a knot in them so they didn't fall down.
How soon was it before you started to feel good again?
So it almost within a week, started to get more energy, and then I could work on the basics. I mean, I'd engaged with services down the line there, so I knew what I had to do for the short term, which was, get up and brush my teeth, washing, put some clothes on for the wash, watch productive things, escape from the guilt that I've got. So I'd immerse myself into YouTube and into Warhammer 40,000 lore, these books that are out there. And,
love it.
All sorts of things like that. Just pure escapism and repair. So physically I was repairing, and mentally I was dodging what I had to face down the line. So I'd escape mentally.
I suppose it's getting back into that routine. You mentioned just brushing your teeth, just the normal personal hygiene, getting back to normality. Really, is it stuff that I won't say forgot, but is it stuff that
it's things the addiction takes away from you. So for an addiction to get a hold of you in that way, it has to remove everything that was you before.
It's got to make room for its all-consuming behavior that it assumes on you, isn't it? The control. It needs to. I want to take control over everything. You can't just have me if you want me a little bit. I want you, all of it. I want everything about you. It takes all of you.
Yeah, and it's how it operates. And you've got to fight for those things back, because the other thing is it affects how you remember those things and how you remember your life. When it makes you forget what you were like before you started taking drugs. Yeah, you can't remember who you were. And you'll never be that person again. No. That's really what it's about. You're never going to...
I want to ask you 2 questions now. So for anybody listening to this, who may be an athlete, they may just be a normal day-to-day guy, but they're thinking of maybe chasing that next buzz, and they might be thinking of trying cocaine for the first time, or some other substance, or whatever that may be. What sort of advice have you got to them? So these are people that are potentially thinking of trying something.
My advice is, if you whatever your drives are for doing that, whatever's wrong, it won't be what you think it is, and it was more likely internal. It's something. It's something within you, and drugs will hide it more. Yeah, and drugs will take it further away from you dealing with.
And there's no denying it will ruin your life, won't it? If someone turns that, it will ruin their lives.
It doesn't matter if it's a week or 10 years. It will take you. It will.
I was going to say, we said it earlier about don't see it as a challenge. Some people, especially in the drinking community, it's very quick. I think Rich referenced it earlier, going out and drinking competitions and stuff like this. And how much can you drink? How much can you drink? Lightweight, this, that, and the other. That bravado and that behaviour can very quickly slip over into, well, I can take that. Can you take that? Can you take it? Do you know what I mean? Can you survive it? And people that think, oh, I'm strong on this, I'm strong-willed, I'm disciplined. Yeah, give me a hit of this, give me a hit of that. I can still do this. It's not the same. It's not a dare. It's not a competition. Nobody wins. There is no winning. There's no.
No, there is only losers in that game. If anybody's getting a buzz out of trying to toy with drugs and alcohol, like just keeping it on the cusp, like it feels edgy because I can drink loads and then I can have a week off. Yeah. Try not drinking. If you want a challenge, try not drinking. Yeah.
Oh mate, you're so right there. You're so right. The real discipline is there, isn't it? Because anybody can give into social pressure. Anybody can.
Social pressure is the worst. Yeah. Social pressure is the worst.
The coward gives into social pressure, and they won't think they will. And they know I'm part of the lads. You know what? Bullshit.
And I'll tell you how you win in social arguments. So when someone's like, "Oh, you didn't come out Saturday night. You've not been out in weeks," and you can see how miserable they look, really, and they're like, "Yeah, all the boys are going out." Well, you'll point at whatever you bought, whatever you've recently acquired, or your gorgeous partner, or your lovely kids, and it's worth more. It's all right, mate. Whatever. Just wave it away, because it doesn't matter. Things never change on the whole, and there's people that I went to school with that are still going to the town and drinking. And they'll keep going drinking every weekend. You're not missing out on anything.
No, I see it.
You're not missing out on anything.
Yeah.
There's nothing to be missed out on. It should be fleeting. That drinking and partying, it should just be. If you ever decide to do it, it should just be for a short time, and then you get out of it and you get on with everything else.
That brings me to my second question, Matthew. So someone who's in the, let's say, in the shit, so to speak, they are in the thick of their addiction. Yeah. What one bit of advice can you give them to get out of it? What step can they take? They are at rock bottom. They may be even thinking themselves of jumping off a bridge. What one bit of advice can you give them to help them out?
It would be you don't have to stop taking. Nobody's asking you to stop taking drugs, but engage with Narcotics Anonymous, for example, or smart meetings for recovery, because you will then be surrounded by a support network that you can eventually start to share with, and they've all been there, done that.
I think it's really important to touch on that then. So who you just mentioned then? What was that? Sorry,
Narcotics Anonymous.
Okay, so is that how do people reach out to that? Is it a website? Is it a phone?
So it's really, really easy to find. You can find it with an internet search. You can phone up Frank, the drug service, and they'll put they can guide you into that. There's so many different ways. You could even buy books from like someone like Russell Brand. Say he gives you
I've seen some of his stuff. It's really powerful. Some of his stuff.
Yeah. So he has a book that's I believe it's Recovery. It's called, I think, and that's based around the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous.
I think people like Russell Brand as well.
Matthew should write a book.
Maybe that'll be our...
you should write a book.
You've got a fantastic voice as well, so maybe there's an audio book in there.
There's a lot of things that I wouldn't say here that maybe I could put into words. Like there's a lot of funny stories and a lot of, do you know what I mean, that I wouldn't...
You should try it. You should try it. Pull it out there. You heard it here first.
I was thinking to myself...
I've taken too many big hits. I can't spell anymore.
People like Russell Brand, I think and I've not followed lots and lots of his stuff, so I'm going to use him as an example. I'm sure he's done lots of bad things, but the way he demonstrates that going through the recovery process doesn't mean you're not cool anymore. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean you're not one of the lads anymore. It doesn't mean that everyone that gets off the fun bus has given up on life. It's not that they were so weak that they couldn't keep going. You know what you've said about tapping into these resources, tapping into these groups. You don't have to go it alone. This doesn't have to be, you've come this far destroying yourself. No one's asking you to get out of this by yourself.
No, the only way you can get out of it is with help.
Yeah.
It really is. You can do aspects on your own. Mm-hmm. And, if anybody thinks there's a stigma attached to it, there's never been a better time in our society to deal with an issue like addiction. We're as a society, we're now coming to terms with it as being an illness rather than people pointing at you, calling you dirty or whatever. We know it's an illness. We know loads of people suffer with it, and whether that's young people playing games constantly, playing their Xbox or PlayStation, then the parents go, oh, "Why are they agoraphobic?" It's not that. They're beginning in addiction. They're not they can't leave that bloody computer console.
No.
And
you can be addicted to anything. It's going to be a massive problem moving forward for anybody and everybody.
Absolutely agree.
We spoke. You was addicted for around 10 years, but it's also important to say now you've been recovered just as long, haven't you?
Yeah, there was life after it. So tell us about your life after it.
You've gone full circle, and I believe you're now back involved in the combat sport, but in a different type of way, aren't you?
Yeah. So this is for all that misery and all that fight and that struggle, when you're an addict, it never ends, and you will always relapse. Relapse is part of it, and you can relapse in different ways. You can relapse as in your behaviours, like you stop brushing your teeth, or you can't function at work, or you fall off the wagon. But they're fleeting moments in your recovery. They're all part and parcel. It's just a oops, pick up, keep going, and it's all positive rather than it being.
It's not the hiccup that often kills people, is it? It's the spiral. I say and we can use it as simple as fitness or dieting or addiction or anything like that. I'm not saying they're all the same, but the element of I had a hiccup today, as in I made a small error. Okay, I'll acknowledge it. I'll put the fundamentals back in place. I'm just going to do a reset, and that can be done in a moment. It can be done in that very second. It hasn't got to be this happened on a Monday, so I'm going to write the week off and I'm going to spiral and I'm going to go down the rabbit hole and down and down and down. You can reset any moment, can't you? Even if you've just found yourself in the wrong environment, like you say, you've wandered into the pub and a drink has landed in front of you. That moment there, you haven't got to go, bloody hell, I'll just have this one and then I'll leave. Right, that moment there, you can go, whoa, okay, no, that's fine, we're here. But I don't want to be here. And I can capture this moment now. Nobody's going to be upset or angry or frustrated with me. And I need to look after myself because I know what I'm predisposed to. I know how my mind works. And I'm not safe in this environment. I need to remove myself.
And it's that's one of the joys of recovery. You're so self-aware.
Yeah. I
can't remember a time in my life before addiction where I'd have gone to a party and just gone, nah, I don't want a beer, and that'd be okay. Do you know what I mean? You just end up being so comfortable with yourself and so self-aware.
Absolutely.
But
it's fantastic.
There is a saying that you when you come out of addiction, your new life will cost you your old life. So whatever you used to do,
I love that.
Your new life will cost you your old life. And anybody that's worried about any kind of outcome or so-and-so's going to find out, I'm going to lose everything. So what if you do? You'll have your health, and you can always rebuild. You really can, because within the time that I've been clean, I've met the love of my life, and I've got my daughter from my marriage, and I've got my stepdaughter she's just an amazing person. I've helped her get to uni. I've just all the small things that people take for granted, but they're so important and they're so fulfilling.
Yeah.
It
gives you such an appreciation for these things as well that perhaps the everyday person listening won't have those appreciation for the things that...
And also, Matthew, your life could have been so different.
Oh, God, yeah, or I could be dead. You know, like John I was talking about earlier, he died. He died. I found out in January that he died. And another one of the lads, Scuba, he's dead. And, you know, there's plenty of people that never spoke about it, that were struggling, and they end up dead, or they end up still on it. And that saying, your new life will cost you your old one. If you've got a 250 grand house and a whatever on the drive, what you name it, that's on the drive. It's just stuff, man. It's just stuff. Yeah. You can't use it if you're dead. You can't use it. You know, you probably can't if you're struggling to maintain all of that. None of it matters. You'll get it back and more. You'll get it back and more. You won't even want it. A lot of the time, these things are required to cover up problems.
Oh, they are.
And
we're trying to patch over things in our world. That's been incredible, mate. I mean, that is such a powerful point to finish on. I mean, Rich, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's been good. I think, Matthew, first of all, thanks for speaking to us, and I honestly believe our conversation today is going to help so many. So thank you for that, Matthew. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a kind of therapy for me, and thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to tell my story.
Keep fighting every day, mate. We'll speak to you soon.
Appreciate it.
We'll be the champs on board.
We feel very lucky to have had Matt on the show sharing his incredible story of addiction and recovery. But if you yourself or somebody close to you has been affected by the content in today's show, please remember that there is support out there. TalkToFrank.com is a fantastic free way for you to access support in the UK for these issues that affect and destroy lives every single day. It's okay not to be okay, and help is out there. Look after yourself, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for checking out the Firefighters Podcast this week. Make sure you check out the YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram pages, keeping yourself up to date with the latest podcast as it comes out. We'll see you guys soon.